Hi, this is Rook with Mostly Harmless, and I'm joined by Sunarie again. We're looking at today what we're going to focus on is the farms, mounts, and different things. But we got to talk first, I think, about the proposed changes to the game. This is what's being done. They're working really hard in the background to get everything ready for wipe. And I've got up here. You've seen this map, right? The proposed new land and stuff.
Oh yeah,
It's huge. It's like 200 little individual plots is the way it looks like it's mapped out. If you're obsessive like me and you count them all out. And I'm just switching out another slide and actually showing what I think that it's going to transpose to, because they showed in their YouTube video, they showed this nice map of the lands, and it looked pretty plain to me that that upper northern part, it looks exactly like what they showed us on the forums, that they've shown everybody, that they said, hey, this is what we're looking at, this is what we're talking about doing. And so I added a couple of my own little red squares of where they're saying the cities might be and some little H's of where the harbors might be, and just started getting a little excited about what the changes are going to be. But you were just saying a minute ago that one of the changes is that the farms that are currently in the game that have boundaries around them, they're not going to have boundaries?
right. So, in the next, I guess, beta 2, when they introduce the new map, the farm terries aren't going to be protected anymore. So, if you're used to running into those to get away from maybe people who are chasing you in black zones, you're not really going to be able to do that anymore. They are going to have towers that will attack nearby enemies to try and like provide a little bit of protection, but we're not sure right now like whether those towers will attack a single person or multiple people, um, whether their damage output is going to be balanced around higher end gear to where newer players just get like one shot and devastated, or if it's going to be balanced towards lower end gear and then a high geared player can just stand in them, or possibly a lot of high end players in a Zerg just kind of camping the farm territory, preventing somebody from farming.
Right, yeah, because wait, you're saying there's Zergs in this game? there's, it's unfortunate, but
No.
yeah, there's and some of them in high-end gear, right? Like especially as things taper off and there's no real threats as people take a break from beta. It's a reality, right? That is a really important point. I don't know if they would scale it. I don't know if it would be a percentage of health, like just flat out, doesn't matter what gear level you are. First hit does like a League of Legends tower type thing, that it does a certain amount of damage. Well, actually, I guess the League of Legends do scale a bit, that tanks can tank more, but that idea that okay, first hit, yeah, here's 30% of your health. Next hit will be another 50%. You do not take 3 hits, and every person's affected. Um, Okay, but that's certainly an important point. We'll see what the developers say, or if they've tested that much yet. We don't know, but it is what they're proposing to do. Interesting dynamic change. I mean, it's certainly, the good news is that that creates a lot more chance of like open world PvP, right?
Right. And then, if you're one of the people chasing somebody, you don't get frustrated because all of a sudden they ran into this stupid little red barrier around their territory when they were on like 10 health.
Yes, yeah. No, it's going to make for and I like always having those options, or need to cooperate with other people out in the deepest, darkest territories. That if you don't work as a team, it we're always looking for games like that where it takes teamwork to be successful. Whether it's just relaxing and playing Overwatch right now, you need to work as a team, or whether it's a bigger team that needs to work together to bond and have fun together and help each other out. So that sounds like good change. Now, there's also changes with the personal islands, or I mean, they're still going to be available in cities, and this is where we're about to talk about farming and stuff. But they're also going to be available in outposts, or not available in outposts.
They are not available in outposts. Outposts are they kind of resemble cities, and they're going to have a marketplace, a bank, a repair station, and some estate places where you can put buildings down, but they are not going to have islands available. So the only place you'll be able to have personal islands in the lawless lands is going to be in the main cities.
Right, okay. And the outposts will have markets, though, so at least you could sell the goods that you do farm, but they won't be farmed there. They'll have to be farmed out in some zone that allows you to. And I think one of the other changes mentioned was that there won't be, like, some of these zones right now, they've got like plots of land that it's like, okay, the whole zone is basically taken up by plots of lands or territories. That won't be the case. Is that correct?
That I'd have to double check on. I'm not entirely sure.
I had that
I do know
impression,
that
yeah.
you're not going to be able to fast travel though with stuff on you. You can only fast travel naked.
Okay, which is still something to figure out. I don't know how that's going to work from, say, the like I'm looking back at the picture with the three different islands. If these smaller ones are the sort of king's lands with the sort of green, yellow, and red zones, and that's all black up north, how do you get the tier 2 there if there's no tier 2?
Yeah, that I'm not entirely sure of. I'm hoping that the harbors themselves have free travel that allow you to free travel or for a very moderate price travel with goods on you and your gear. I think it would probably be a real big mistake to make you travel out there naked. I'm not sure how you would get your two resources out, especially the amount needed to build multiple buildings or anything like that. Because even like say you want to set up laborers, and I know in our other video we talked about laborers on a personal island in a city, you still have to have tier 2 stone and tier 2 wood to be able to do that. So there's going to have to be some way, and I'm really hoping that the harbors just function differently than regular fast traveling.
Yeah, it doesn't say oh no, it does say actually harbors. I'm just looking down. Have a free travel connection to a harbor in the King's Land. It's always connected to two harbors in the Lawless Lands. Whereas the city one says you can fast travel, but just without your gear. So maybe that's exactly what we were talking about. That the harbors are a way. Of course, outside those harbors, you might get killed.
Yeah, that's what I'm hoping. I mean, that's the logical way. I did ask for clarification in the thread that was on the general forums just to make sure, but the thread has kind of gone by the wayside, and I never, unfortunately, got it.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll certainly keep inquiring about that. There's certainly a lot of changes there that should hopefully promote open world PvP. Resource trade with the different resources. I think it's got a lot of people pretty excited about the changes coming up in the game and stuff. Um, and we'll see how that goes. We did ask them before getting into this newest guide that you guys have made up. Let me start this. So this is now showing on the Intro to Farms and Mounts, written and researched by, of course, yourself, Unknown Raven, and Embo. And we asked the developers just a couple weeks ago, hey, this is what we're looking to do next for a guide for the community to help out. Are there any things coming up that you might be looking to change? And at that time, they felt that the main thing they might be doing is just maybe reorganizing some things on the Destiny board, but there weren't going to be major changes to this area. And then, of course, that could change, but that was their feeling at the time. So good timing for this. Hopefully, this will help people that are getting new to the game. We're always looking for experienced people to join us and stuff, or friends of friends that come in that are new to the game. That's fine and stuff. But we're certainly happy to help the community a bit. Really appreciate you guys doing this. This is good. I'm going to just switch to the next slide here now.
So I'm going to go ahead and apologize because a lot of the stuff is going to be kind of common sense. However, I approached it from a standpoint of assuming somebody has never played a game, has never interacted with like the farming system. So some of it, some of the more experienced players who've played multiple MMOs or whatever, they're going to be able to just skip by a lot of the little points that I made.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I guess why would you say it's important to even have a farm? Does it matter? Would most people go through the game and never bother with this, or is it worthwhile for them too?
It's worthwhile for a few different reasons. So when we're talking about farms, I'm actually talking about what I'm referring to as farming plots. And you can do various things with farming plots. You can put down vegetables on them, which can be crafted into food. You can put on herbs, which can be crafted into potions. You can put down pastures to grow animals, and then eventually kennels as well, which will, dire wolves and stuff. You can actually grow on your farms.
Right. Yeah. And I think one of the things, I think it was JD, one of the guys was saying to me that he was like, yeah, I never realized how easy it was to make my own cabbage soup. Like he grew his carrots, made some carrot soup. He grew his wheat, made some wheat soup, and then he was eventually able to grow cabbage and made his cabbage soup. And that in this game gave him the ability to do a lot of solo work because it gave him that health regeneration that he needed to do those things. And he was being charged an arm and a leg otherwise. So not so much by people growing cabbage soup, but by people, the marketeers that would buy up all of whatever item and then resell it for a higher price. So the prices weren't too bad originally, but marketeers are having a good time just bumping up prices.
Well, yeah, and I mean, food especially is used for a lot of different stuff. It's not just used for buffs. You have to use it to feed buildings and upkeep on buildings, and basically anything related to stuff that you build is all done through the food system. So food is actually a very important part of the game, especially if you're in a guild or a part of a group that's looking to own a building even just in town or on your personal island. Um, the nutrition levels fall down as you make stuff for crafting, even on your personal island. So food is something you will eventually need to get that nutrition level back up so you can continue crafting stuff.
Well, that's a good point too. That if you're new to the game, you need food you might need it for yourself, of course, for the buildings, and they might need particular types that will help them do better. But then your guild and alliance might need it for certain territories, because even the territories, if you don't feed them, they become neutral, and that means that someone else can walk in, buy it, and anything that you left in the bank or on that market, too bad, so sad, it's gone.
I don't know that it disappears completely. I think at least the way the
Sorry,
bank works.
the market they could buy up, I guess. That the bank stuff is still there. You can get access to it again, but yeah.
Right, but you'd have to get the territory back in order to get access to it again. You can't just walk in there because of the barriers.
Yeah, yeah. Some people might be kind enough to let you get in and stuff, but not necessarily. Um, so I think important picture, just the top left, just to orient people. In the current system, there is basically a seller that you can buy the stuff from. That's pretty obvious. As you buy and expand your land, when you start out, you actually start out for, at the moment, it's 2,500 silver. You get your plot, your personal island, but there is no farming plot. It's when you upgrade by spending the other 7,500 silver that you get your first farming plot. Experience-wise, you basically have to farm. If you just have the one plot, you have to farm it for twice, and that will give you enough experience to go from carrots to your turnips, I think it is, and just go up the levels. It takes more and more as you go up, but it starts out pretty easy just to get you started. Yeah, you can see that they're dark brown, located in the north part of the island. You've got the place of building stuff there, the hammer icon. Okay, so I'm going to go to the next slide here where you're actually buying the seeds now. Looks like they're pretty cheap to start, but they quickly get up in price there. Although, are you having to buy seeds each time?
No, you don't. And actually, the animals are even more expensive than the seeds are. Especially the horse mounts and stuff, or they're not mounts yet, but the horses that you grow that you can then turn into mounts later. But with anything that you can purchase from that vendor, be it seeds or animals, at the end of its growth, when you either get a product you can harvest or you get an adult animal, the animals will produce an offspring, and the vegetables you can harvest or the herbs you can harvest will produce a seed. So you only really have to purchase the set of seeds once for each thing you're planning on
Okay, so
continuing to grow.
this isn't a silver sink. This is just a part of the game. It's not taking all the money away from you.
Right. And the only, I guess I tend to throw seeds away because I'm dumb, so I end up buying different seeds every time I want to cook something different. But theoretically, you could just hold on to the seeds in a chest on a house in or on your island, and then you wouldn't have to worry about even purchasing them any ever again.
Right, yeah. And I found myself that a single farm with the 9 crops, basically that turned into about 80 of whatever. So whether it was 80 carrots, 80 wheat, 80 cabbage, that's not quite right because it is a random number. And that was with the premium bonus. So that does give a very healthy bonus to the farming, which we'll get into in a minute. But it was around 80. And so it just gives you an average idea to a new person coming into it. It's like, okay, well, I want to be able to do this. So the numbers didn't change with the crop type. It wasn't like as I moved up to beans and wheat and so on that I couldn't. Well, it was beans that were next. Yeah, right. I didn't get less each time. The change was that it required more. So it required more wheat to make wheat soup than it did to make carrot soup, and more cabbage to make, like I think it was 144 cabbage. So basically the results of 2 full cabbage plots to make a batch of cabbage soup, about 10 cabbage.
Yeah, and one thing kind of to note, especially when you're doing like a lot of farms, so like you can have a maximum of 5 farming plots on your personal island. I would definitely recommend bringing a mount with you. You can't place crops or harvest them while on your mount, but you can easily, dismount, place them down, gather them up, whatever. Once you get into the higher tiers, especially, food actually gets very heavy very quickly, and mounts are even worse, or animals are even worse, especially horses and oxes.
Right, yeah, that makes sense. Carrying a bunch of oxen might be a little heavy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so we're on the one slide now. The next one is just showing, of course, placing, right-clicking inventory, very basic stuff, but people can certainly read through that. The fact that the seeds and livestock, the main things, with a premium account take 22 hours. I think that's huge. Like it's just it's not like ArcH where you're juggling a whole bunch of different grow times and that it becomes a science of how to maximize your plot and get whatever out and ruins your life. This is, oh yeah, every night before I go to bed, I'm going to flip my crops, or every morning before I go to work or at work or whatever. You've got a break at lunchtime. Some people do it, I know, and they just get on their tablet. And tablets are great for this. I really like the fact that I can do this on my tablet while I'm watching a show with my wife or whatever. That just, yeah, flip, flip, flip. It's just, it's kind of mindless clicking, but at the same time, it's just like a lot of activities that you do on tablets and stuff that is just mindless clicking, but it achieves a result that is useful for your group.
Yeah, and I do have it noted, and you can kind of see it on that slide too, but for the livestock, I guess it takes 22 hours to grow. That's with premium. Then without premium, it takes twice as long, so it's 44 hours for seeds and livestock. For the purposes of the slides, livestock are basically the farm animals that you can butcher. I use the word livestock to try and make a distinction between those and animals you grow for mounts, which can't be butchered for meat. The half as long time plays a huge, huge, huge role, especially when you start getting to higher tiers of like horses and the dire mounts or ox. They Some of them can take like 7 or 8 days, and that's with premium. So you're looking at like 16 days if you don't have premium.
Okay, yeah.
And then, of course, you can see the premium bonus there because I had premium when I took the screenshots for the cabbage. It actually doubles the yield of your crops. So I think it's with the crops, you get a harvest of 3 to 6 without premium per that little plot. So there's 9 of those per farm plot. And then with premium, it doubles it, so it's 6 to 12 instead. And kind of the happy medium point is 8. That's what I've used for my averages as well.
Sure, yeah. Yeah. Well, that makes sense. I think what's kind of neat about it is that if you did not want to pay cash or use gold or whatever to buy from the company to get more premium time, the work that you spend on making cabbage soup or making other things from these farms could probably raise enough money that you would be successful this way at paying for your account. It just might take a bit of time each day.
Yeah, and definitely, especially some of the higher tier foods go for quite a bit of money. Some of the better selling ones are things like the pies for gathering or the stews that increase your DPS.
Yeah, no, I mean, the cheap stuff was, selling the cabbage soup, which everybody could do and stuff, but even just selling the health potions at the end there, I was selling them for about 7K or whatever, or up to 10K, and then there were some other stews and sandwiches and stuff selling for up to 15K depending. So
Yeah, you could definitely make enough to buy premium with it. It would just probably take a little while if that was the only thing you were doing and you only had one personal island. It is worth noting that a lot of people that get really into farming farm multiple islands worth of farms. So like you get 3 characters
yes,
to your
right.
account, you can have your 2 alts have their personal island, level that up. And the only thing premium is required for is to actually initially buy the island. So you can still upgrade the island, you can place building plots down on it, or buildings or whatever, upgrade the buildings, everything without premium. It's just the initial buy that you need premium for.
Yeah, no, I remember you had tested that right away at the beginning to see if it was even possible. But now it wasn't just 1 day of premium. You needed the first month of premium to buy the island.
Yeah, you have to get 30 days.
Yeah, okay. Okay, well, that's great that that's tested. Let's go to the next slide here for the mounts. Okay, so similar process. A lot of people are very interested, of course, doing or creating their own mounts. The changes most recently, I mean, they require a lot more food than they used to, so it's become a lot more work intensive to create mounts, as I understand it. I haven't done that myself. I actually haven't made mounts, but is that correct?
Yeah, from my understanding, because honestly, I didn't really get into mounts too much, but the way it used to be is you just were tier 3 horses or ox, and then the way that you actually crafted the mount was to get the higher tier resources and then go to the vendor. Now, in addition to needing those higher tier resources, you also have to be able to grow and harvest the high tier animal itself. So you can't just, grow a tier 3 horse, which you unlock really early on, and then, oh, you have tier 5 resources, and you've leveled up crafting mounts. To go craft the mount and get a tier 5 horse, you actually have to grow a tier 5 horse. And the tier 5 horse takes significantly longer to grow than a tier 3 horse. You can kind of see on the growth timer there that I have on the middle picture. That's
Mm-hmm.
69 hours, 59 minutes, and 50 seconds that it still needs to grow. And
Right.
there's about a third of that time that's already gone.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So it's a significant amount of time here. Yeah. And
Yeah, and it just goes up with the higher tiers too. One thing I guess kind of to note about that slide in particular is the horses, well, the mounts in general, are the only things that kind of require you to feed them on a daily basis, because you can only give an animal about 24 hours worth of food. So again, on that middle screenshot, I've got 24 hours, 6 minutes, and 25 seconds worth of food that I've given him, and the food bar is full. So I can't give him any more food than that. I'm going to have to come back the next day and feed him more for him to continue growing. He won't grow if he doesn't have food.
right. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So it takes more days and stuff. And you don't want to overfeed them at the first, or else you're wasting food.
So the overfeeding thing, just to explain that a little bit further, is if, say, well, first off, each food provides a certain time of growth. So if you put in one food, it'll provide, like, say, 6 minutes of growth time. If your horse has 1 minute of growth left, and you just like drag a stack of food onto the little spot where you insert food there, it'll take 24 hours worth of food out of that stack instead of just taking the one that it would have needed to grow. So
Right.
you can overfeed them that way, and then you're wasting food.
Now, it used to be that way with the chickens and so on, but I thought they had fixed it so that it would only take what it actually needed, but now I'm not so sure.
So the bug with the chickens and everything was a little bit different, and I'm not sure if it's in the game still or not. I haven't experienced it lately, but that was, you gave them 24 hours worth of food or 22 hours worth of food, like you see kind of in the bottom one with the lamb there.
Yeah.
And they wouldn't fully grow with that. They would still need 1 minute or 1 second or whatever it was back then to grow when they should have been fully grown, um,
Okay.
which was causing people to put the whole stack of food in. So it's kind of a compound problem that way, I guess. They weren't growing how they were supposed to be. So even though they were supposed to be fully grown, they were still showing, one whatever, and you'd have to feed them again. But I definitely checked it as far as the overfeeding part with the horses, and it is still possible to overfeed those.
Okay. Okay, good to know. Yeah, and I haven't had any problems feeding sheep or whatever, just trying to do some of the basic things to get a feel for the game. So moving ahead to the next slide with the animals, and you're saying here that livestock always provide a new baby, even horses and ox. So even though there might be an initial cost for the horses and oxen to do that, they will give you a new baby each time. So once you start your operation, you can just keep going. You just need to feed them more.
Right. The difference is with the dire animals. So those are the ones where they have a chance to drop from, like, you're killing dire wolves, you might get a dire wolf pup. Same for a piglet from boars or a cub for bears. Those ones have a very low chance to reproduce. So you might get a baby from them, but it's in no way guaranteed, and it's actually kind of rare for it to happen. So you're probably going to have to go out and farm a whole bunch of them again, and they're fairly rare drops. I've killed quite a few dire wolves in my beta playthrough, and I have never gotten a pup.
Okay. Okay. So I'm not buying a lottery ticket with you.
No.
Okay, so the rest of this seems quite clear that they can also produce other goods. The general feeling I had of the whole herbs, crops, and food and stuff was that it's pretty sensible. Like it's not overly complicated. That you either took the animals and basically took them and butchered them for meat, or you took the product from them and fed them again to get more product instead of butchering them for meat and stuff. So that all made sense. You get a good supply of like eggs from chickens and geese, or a good supply of milk. Like I didn't find that like the numbers were higher. It was like, oh yeah, here's 28 milk from each of these that you get. So it was a pretty big amount. I also found that with the animals, the livestock, that if you have one farm plot right beside your one animal plot, it's not quite enough to feed them all. You need 90 food, and it doesn't matter what. It could be 90 carrots that are lighter, or 90 wheat or cabbage or whatever. I didn't notice with the livestock that I was feeding, which was pretty low level stuff, just up to sheep, that it mattered what I was feeding them. Did you find that there was a certain level of food you did require for some of them?
Nope, it doesn't matter what you feed them. You can feed them tier 2 carrots if that's all you grow. I will say that the horses and the ox and the dire wolves, or dire animals rather, not just the wolves,
Mm-hmm.
but they require more food in higher quantities. Like the higher level you go, the higher tier. So where, maybe only 10 food was required for the tier 3, well, that goes up to maybe like 32 food for the tier 4, and it just keeps going up and up and up. The dire animals also eat meat. They don't eat vegetables. So you actually have to have pastures to butcher animals to feed the dire animals, plus farms to feed the animals that they are then going to turn around and butcher.
Okay, so they're expensive because they're rare to find and they take a lot to get them going.
Right.
Okay, that makes sense. I think that makes sense for that. Just going to go on to the next slide here. Right, the horses, ox, dire animals. Is it still the same as it used to be? That basically you bring the sort of baby, so to speak, or actually I guess it's a grown one, to the saddler along with some leather, and that turns them into that, or is it something else that's needed?
It's the same as it used to be. The type of resource depends on what you're going to craft with it. I think the ox require wood, the horses and dire animals require leather. I might be wrong on those exact things, but if you go to a saddler, you can check out what you need beforehand just to make
Right.
sure you have it. I did try and include the icons of the actual shops on that slide. It's like if you open your map when you're in town and you're looking for a saddler in town, it's going to have, that horse icon. The butcher's going to have the meat in a bowl and so on.
Right, yeah. So that all makes sense. That's good. Um, I think most people know what the crafting. This is pretty good. This next slide showing the tiers, the armor resist, CC resist, max load. I found that interesting that we were able to gather all those stats. This was from Embo or Raven.
A combination of the two. Embo actually gave me all the really professional looking icons, and he gave me the information on those different stats for kind of the non-standard mounts. Raven gave me the information for the standard, horses, oxes,
Nice.
and dyers.
Very good. The I did not know that it was exactly a 10% speed boost for the oxen, or that the armor and magic resist was actually the same across the different tiers. I knew that when you sat on one, your armor went up a good amount, your magic resist went up a good amount, that you were pretty tanky on them, but I didn't realize it was the same, so that's good to know. And the max load, of course, is huge.
Yeah, and the information in green at the bottom, if you didn't see that, that's actually also something Embo provided me with. He actually went down and got all of because the different qualities of them, so the excellent, masterpiece, epic, and legendary, what they do depends on the type of mount that you're increasing the quality of. So I've noted those down at the bottom. I've also I will apologize beforehand because the dire animals, I wasn't sure exactly which categories to put those in. So some of them are probably, especially on the next slide, going to appear in a place that maybe you don't feel they should fit, or some of the viewers don't feel they should fit. That was done for space reasons and
Makes sense, yeah.
for stat reasons.
Yeah, oh, it certainly looks really good. The speed with the dire bear, like that's skipping to the next slide, that puts it in the range of above a tier 5 horse, so that's quite good. The just to clarify here that the speed does not increase though with the quality.
Correct. So
Yeah.
for like the dire bear, he gains more crowd control resist and more carrying capacity with higher quality. He does not gain any other stat, just those two.
Yeah. Okay, so those armor and magic resist are going to be the same and stuff. Okay, cool.
Interestingly enough, none of the mounts actually gain speed, not even the
Sure.
riding horses with higher qualities.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's fair. I think that keeps it to a nice even keel and stuff. That max load's a nice benefit, but not a critical benefit. It's not game changing and stuff. So that's kind of cool. The dire boar looks neat. I didn't actually. I've ridden around on one briefly and stuff. Just bought one on Mordred staging server. I never bought one on the real server. Didn't bother. But certainly fun to ride. Very fast. Good weight load that they can carry. Um, the donkey I've got as well. The undead horse I actually didn't bother. But neat to see that it's not that big of a difference. Like it's sort of like oh great, you've got a better than average tier 6 horse. It looks cool.
Well, it's actually a tier 5. So it's the equivalent of a tier 6, though. So it's kind of, you're getting a tier above what you're actually wearing.
Yeah, which is sort of the
And
same
it
with the
can hold
legendary
a little
stuff.
bit more, too.
Yeah. The Direwolf, I think most of us in the guild have a Direwolf. Just it was so nice for some of the stuff to be able to ride at basically the fastest mount in the game. And interesting enough, the when we did the tests on sounds, the dire wolf and I think even the dire bear and dire boar, they were all quieter than the horse. Like you didn't hear them coming from as far away as you did a horse. So it was kind of nice.
Yeah, and that's one of the things, I guess, kind of to think about with the lawless lands and stuff. I know for like trading caravans, sounds are very important. You don't want to attract people from way off, and all of the oxen, just you can hear them from miles.
Yeah, unless it's our usual operation where we run an ox ahead of us to bait people and then we kill them all.
Don't say that.
It's good both ways. Either they take the bait or it's not bait and they leave us alone.
There you go.
Yeah. It was fun in Eve that you jump into a system and eventually your name's recognized enough that they're like, we're just going to let you pass because you might sign away in a whole bunch of people. That's good times. So hopefully we'll have the same good times here. So those look good. The numbers are there. We're going to put this slide with the stuff, and that is the last slide. The Direwolf, the huge speed buff, of course, for him. The fact that he cannot carry extra weight, that all the armored horses don't really give you a max load capacity increase. The armor and CC or magic resist is not as high in the Direwolf, but it is fast and it's certainly nice to have. Is there anything else that you'd like to add?
No, not off the top of my head. I mean, as with the other one, I'll be lurking around the forums if people pose questions or if they want to correct something. Definitely feel free to do so, and I'll either answer to the best of my ability, or I do have the ability to change the slides, and it'll automatically update the link so that it can be
Nice.
correct as possible.
Yeah, that's great. Well, really appreciate the work that the three of you put into this. I think it's nice to share this with the community. We're still a ways out from wipe here, hopefully in about a month and a half, say August or end of July or whenever it happens, and pretty excited about the changes. Won't claim to have the answers, just learning like everybody else about this great game, and looking forward to learning more about it. So thanks for doing this.
Definitely, and thank you to Embo and Raven because they helped me out immensely with this one.
Yeah, they're great guys. So I guess the usual sign off. This is Rook with Mostly Harmless, and of course joined by Sunarie as always, and we'll see you out on the battlefield.